that. We're going to go next to New York, to Nadim Shehadi, who's the Executive Director of the Lebanese American University Academic Centre. He joins us, as I say, from New York. Nadim, thank you very much for being with us. What do you take from that announcement from Beirut? The government has resigned.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, it was expected. People were expecting him to resign. I think it's a mistake to have asked for his resignation in the first place. He is responding to, of course, calls for his resignation from the streets. It is important to maintain the political process in Lebanon rather than to paralyze it by a resignation. His resignation will make him remain as a caretaker government, which has no responsibility and no accountability. So we are giving him an excuse to fail without responsibility. We're giving that government an excuse to fail without responsibility. And I think the key in reviving Lebanon is to revive a political process where there is accountability and responsibility through elections.
So you say that elections are needed now to restore that accountability.
Yeah.
How exactly do you see those elections playing out if they were to take place? Are there leaders in place who could win a more stable and effective government in Lebanon?
Not a question of leaders. It's a question of process. The Diab government is not an independent or a neutral government. It is a government that represents the three major parties that are in power, which is Hezbollah, Amal, and the Free Patriotic Movement of General Aoun. It is the first time that we have such a government of one color rather than a government of national unity like we've had since 2008. This makes that side of the political spectrum responsible for their actions. When you have a government of national unity and you have the whole parliament represented in it, then there is no responsibility and no accountability. So keeping that government would have created the responsibility and accountability, which would have then translated into the elections, which would have had into the results of the elections. So,
in that speech from the Prime Minister...
Now we're going into a risk of going into a paralysis.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but in the speech from the Prime Minister, you referred repeatedly to populist forces who he said was undoing the efforts of the government to implement reforms. Who is he talking about?
Well, he's giving excuses. There is no excuse. He has no excuse for not implementing reform and for not engaging with the IMF. His masters, Hezbollah, are against the IMF and involvement with the IMF, and they are blocking the process, wanting it to fail because it increases their power. So he's using these are excuses that will not fly. He's blaming the revolution for his failure.
Okay, Nadim Shehadi from the Lebanese American University Academic Centre joining us from New York. Thank you very much for your time and analysis.